Welcome to the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, where there's always another secret.
Wow. Wow. So, wow. Welcome back to the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies. This is episode 177. Today is December 16th, 2024. I am Bill, and I am joined, as always, by my tempestuous co-hosts, Amy and Jordan. Welcome.
Hello. Bill, when did you finish the book?
2 days ago.
Ask me when I finished the book.
When did you finish the book?
I finished the book 6 hours ago. Amy, when did you finish the book?
5 minutes ago.
So you guys know when you were kids and you had to do your homework and you always turned it into the last second? That's Amy, except in this case, the homework makes you emotionally a wreck.
I have children to drive to school, and apparently, I struggle right now, if I have a thing that I need to do and I want to do it, but I'm like, but I'm just going to do that other thing and that other thing. And then it kept happening. And then
we're not here to judge you, Amy. We are
I
here
know.
because
so much
you're not doing okay right now. And I
as I said in the pre-show, this is actually the best result because this is the juice most freshly squeezed it could possibly be.
It hurts.
Oh man.
Man.
Okay.
Oh, man.
Before we get started, it's always a good idea, especially today, to reiterate that the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies is not a spoiler-free podcast. Is not. Because, yeah, and if there's something you haven't read in the Cosmere, specifically the newest book, you're going to want to go read that before coming back and joining the discussion. Because it is here, it's happened. Wind and Truth, the final book in the first arc of the Stormlight Archive, is out. And we have been reading like crazy to make sure we're ready to discuss it tonight. So let's do this in just a few minutes. For those of you who listen to the podcast recordings or watch the videos on YouTube, we'd like to remind you that it's possible for listeners to interact with us live via chat as we record each episode at www.youtube.com/Cosmere Studies. We record episodes every other Monday night, starting at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. So please join in and take an active part in the discussion because, it's so fun having y'all here, and there's a lot to talk about now.
Yeah.
The Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies is made possible by the support of our listeners and patrons. The show will, of course, continue to be free, but if you want to help us out, you can head over to patreon.com/Cosmere Studies, even pledging $1 or $2 per episode. Actually, it's moving to moving to monthly rather than episodic, but we'll get into that later. But even pledging a couple bucks at a time really helps us out as we continue to work to improve the show. Patrons get immediate access to our Discord channel where you can talk about the show and the Cosmere with other listeners. We've got a great community over there. We've got some fun discussions, and now, of course, is when discussion time will begin to explode. So if you have thoughts on this book that we're about to discuss tonight, it's a great place to talk about them. You'll also get early access to bonus episodes. You'll get exclusive access to other bonus content and other good stuff. How are we doing?
I'm fine.
That's how I'm doing.
I'm not fine, but I will be. No, I smoked some baby back ribs and made beans, like barbecue baked beans tonight. So
And I have to say the beans are excellently done.
I'm eating my feelings. So
I'm eating Bill's beans.
There's something wrong about that. I don't know what.
You knew what I was when you picked me up.
I didn't pick you up. You followed me home.
This is technically true. Anyway,
Okay. Well, let's move on into announcements then. So, Jordan, how is our push towards full monetization going?
it is cratered because everyone is reading the book and no one is listening to any sort of content whatsoever.
That is fair.
So we are going to be starting the year at around 3,200, which is basically more 3,250. So we are basically a quarter of the way there from 3,000 to 4,000. So hopefully, as we cover more Wind and Truth stuff, people are going to be finishing the book and ready to start going through.
To chat. Okay. Well, main announcement: Dragonsteel Nexus happened. That was a thing. We were there. We attended as just attendees, although Jordan and Amy were each on a panel, and both of them did very well, I thought.
Oh, thank you.
I had a lot of fun at the panel.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Jordan, did you want to talk about Kolos Head Munching Day cards?
Yes, sorry. So for those who don't know, I got an extra thing at the con. It was called the Plague.
The Plague.
I last week was sicker than I have been probably since I got COVID back in 2021. And it was, Bill will tell you, it was a week of suffering and very bad noises. And I meant to be doing a lot of stuff.
Very bad for Jordan.
Yeah, he literally said, cause he made me some chicken soup. It was awesome. And I said, you didn't have to do that. And he responded with, yeah, well, you seem to be in a pretty pitiful state.
You were kind of pitiful.
And it's just like, that's almost not true.
No, like I could hear him from like, I was upstairs in my room in book coma and I could still hear him like
I was
coughing up a lung
miserable.
Those are the worst.
Yeah. And so I meant to get a lot done last week that did not get done. Only the book got done. So Kolos Head Munching Day cards are a bit behind schedule. So if you are a patron and you're like, hey, that isn't getting here for Kolos Head Munching Day, you now know why. It will get to you. So, yeah.
Last year's State of the Sanderson was a little bit late. This year's Kolos Head Munching Day cards are going to be a little bit late.
Yeah, that's exactly how it works.
We're on the modified calendar. So
we're on Roche.
All right,
time.
Well, let's move then into the Cosmere Thing of the Week. Did y'all hear that or not?
Yep.
I didn't. That's so weird. Okay. Well, so this week's Cosmere Thing of the Week is just epic. Most of y'all have probably heard about this, but if you've heard of Nerdforge, they were actually at Dragonsteel Nexus this year, and they brought Brandon an epic gift. Because what they did is they got special permission from Tor Books and from Dragonsteel to, like, in behind the scenes without Brandon knowing, to print enormous editions of all 5 books in the Stormlight Archive. Yes, all 5 books. They got early files for book 5, didn't read them. Like, they were good and didn't actually read them, but then they bound them with these gorgeous, like, fancy leather.
They did gold foil and everything, and
absolutely stunning, handcrafted and hand bound. And
these things could stop a 50 caliber bullet.
These things could stop a sniper rifle.
They're big, and
they're enormous.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon, like at the very end of it, they had the video of them presenting it to Brandon at Dragonsteel Nexus, and he was just sort of mind blown. He was like, "This is he." So he signed each of them, and then the 2 people from Nerdforge also signed them.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "This is the biggest thing I've ever signed, or biggest book I've ever signed."
Man!
But wonder what the biggest thing he's ever signed is.
I don't know.
I know he signed somebody's bookshelf.
And I saw him at Dragonsteel Nexus sign someone's framed puzzle, which that was pretty dang big.
I don't know.
But yeah, so lots and lots and lots of things.
Man, I thought Brandon's books were big before.
Anyway, if you haven't seen any of Nerdforge's stuff, she does some really impressive projects. There was another thing that she did where she took the entire Wheel of Time and bound it into a single volume. So Daniel Green has that.
Oh, he got that one.
Like all 14 books are bound into one single book.
One entity. It is
and
big.
Apparently it does open. So it's just it's truly epic. Anyway, definitely worth checking out. She makes some amazing stuff, so you should definitely go over there. Anyway, let's move on to Sanderson news. Thing number 1, Wind and Truth is out. It is 100% completed and released. Bing.
Bing.
Also, White Sand is currently on hold while Brandon finishes revisions of Moment Zero, which is the next thing that he's working on. It's going to be the centerpiece of the non-Cosmere
compilation
that he's compendium that he's working on for next year's Dragonsteel. So that's 10% done, and he needs to be done with that, he said, by either the 1st or the 3rd of January. The State of the Sanderson is on its way, because that typically comes out on December 19th, which is also known as Koloss Head Munching Day. That also means that Brandon's birthday is coming up on December 19th. So happy birthday, Brandon.
Yeah, happy birthday. And if anybody is on TikTok, you should keep an eye out for some different Cosmere creators doing something. So, it's in the works.
Y'all have done stuff in the past before as well. Oh, man. Yep. So we're going to talk a little bit more about Dragonsteel Nexus at a later date, because we got to respond to this book tonight. Because there are feelings. There are all sorts of feelings and emotions and emotional feelings. And yeah.
I had visceral reactions. Like I had to pause to go pick up my son at school, and I was angry. I was so angry.
Yeah. Before we move into it, though, Amy, I would love it if you would post. I did have a costume for Dragonsteel Nexus this year I was very, very pleased with, and it made me happy. So if you want to put that out on social media.
Yeah. Did we get a picture of it?
I got a picture.
Okay. If you send me the picture, I will post it.
I was dressed as Brandon. So
No, you weren't.
It was not Brandon Sanderson.
Oh, that's on no. On the middle day I was Brandon.
Oh, that's true. Okay. That's true.
No, it was the best costume though, because all I had to do was put on a blazer, and everything else was stuff that I would normally wear. The hardest part was actually not shaving for a month and still having a scraggly,
should have done it last year,
looking beard. Last year he had the beard too. It would have had to be 2 years ago.
As I said, 2 years ago, clearly.
Anyway, but yeah, so I was very, very pleased with my costume. Amy had some freaking amazing costumes too.
Thank you.
Like Amy puts a lot more work into her costumes than I had to for mine. I basically,
and way more than me.
I put on a jacket and I had a little stuffed parrot on my shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Amy, meanwhile, is just creator extraordinaire. So
I do find it funny that I find it easier to find Amy in a crowd when she's a Jawa than she's dressed as something else.
That's because nothing else is a Jawa except me.
Especially at Dragonsteel, no, there are no Jawas in.
No,
in
I
Cosmere.
had so many moments, because I did that on Friday, and so many moments on Saturday. People were like, "You were the Jawa?" Because I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I was the Jawa yesterday." They're like, "That was you." And I actually gave Emily Sanderson my Star Wars card of my Jawa and my Mud Trooper, and so she
very cool.
That. So yeah,
very, very cool.
On Saturday night.
Okay, we'll talk more about Dragonsteel though. Let's talk about the book.
Sorry.
Emotions.
Yeah.
Okay, one of the things to keep in mind about this book is that this was actually in the earliest drafts the ending of the Stormlight Archive.
Really?
This wasn't the halfway point. This was the end.
I'm really glad it's not earliest. I'm glad it's not the official ending, because
back in the days of
Dragonsteel Prime,
of Stormlight Prime.
Stormlight Prime.
Not Dragonsteel Prime. Way of King's Prime.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, back in the days of Way of King's Prime, this was the planned ending, and then it grew and grew, and Brandon was like, "No, I've got 10 books here." And so that means that book or this ending right here has been in development for 23 years.
Oh man.
So George R.R. Martin, you got time. you still got time. You can finish this.
You just gotta write it.
No, but I am so... Oh, this book. Okay. I have no idea where to start. So Amy, you have emotions right now. Do you want to talk about your emotions, or do you want to just sort of fill in? You need time to process still.
Let's see. So just spit. I have a list. I read myself, like, you can't see it, but I have like a note document on my phone.
Of course,
where I pause and be like,
metal, so it can't be edited.
So anyway, Adolin needs a hug. Shalon needs so many hugs. So many people need hugs. Moash needs to have those things ripped out of his eyes. He needs to have terrible things happen to him, and he needs to just go away forever.
Okay, let's start there. Moash is a friggin' inquisitor now.
Yep. Freaking
what?
Well, and I love the concept that for hemalurgy to work on Roshar, it has to be done with crystals, instead of with metal spikes, because it's not metal that's important on Roshar. It's
the gems.
It's the gems.
There was one moment where, when you find out who the actual champion is, that Todium had a line that I was like, okay, that makes me get a nice little dig in there. He's like, what, you thought I'd pick Moash? Why would I pick him? And I was like, at least somebody doesn't like him. I mean, I don't like Todium either, but there's a nice little put down in there. It's just, anyway.
Well, the amount of shade that Taravangian throws at Reyes throughout this book.
So much.
Yeah. Okay, so I just had a weird thought. Like, it probably means absolutely nothing, but now we have old Iron Eyes and Crystal Eyes now.
Jerk.
And
Crystal Eyes, who needs to
Crystal
die.
Light.
Well, it just made me think of.
Sorry, I'm gonna be so emotional. Go ahead.
It just made me think of the religion on Scadrial, where you have the two brothers who are jealous of each other, and like, and I'm just like, we kind of now have Moash is the evil one, just because we have two evil, or we have an evil spike-eyed person and a
scary but good one.
Relatively good spike-eyed person.
Wait, are we talking about Thydakar, or are we talking about
No, we're talking about
oh, his name is eluding me right now.
Marsh.
I totally would want someone to make fan art where they have Marsh just like decking Moash in the face. That would make me
I wouldn't
happy.
mind like a series of images of various people across the Cosmere decking Moash.
It'd be really good. Just
and we're gonna get another 15 years of the F Moash subreddit.
I knew it. I hoped that he would go away, but I was like, he's not going to go away. He's just too infuriating.
Okay, but the moment where Lopez shows up to save the day with the line, and it's like, oh, why? Because you got another arm, and it's like, no, you idiot.
Because I got cousins.
It's never about the number of arms. It's about the number of cousins. And then everyone comes over the wall, and Moash is like, okay, yeah, I can't take all of them on.
Oh man,
well, especially because like,
they're rearing to go.
That's the thing, is it's not just a bunch of Windrunners. It's Bridge 4
that are like, we coming for you. Mm-hmm.
It's personal for all of them.
Oh yeah, and I mean, he's taken out Leighton by that point, and that is. Sorry, I have feelings. So many feelings. This is angry.
I want to get one small thing in as well, just because I'm getting my freaking Ghostblood Civil War, and it's in freaking print. That's what Thadakar says. He says
he may come after me.
Yeah, he's like, I'm probably going to have a civil war on my hands, is what he said. And okay, one of the people I thought was safe this book was Eotil because of what it said, and it turns out, and there's so many other books that suddenly in context of this book have different meanings. Even Lost Metal, big different meaning, because remember the question Marasi asked him. She said, "Are you keeping secrets even from your own team?" And he sort of like smirks but doesn't say anything. Literally at that moment, he's keeping a secret from I forget his brother, whatever Yattl's brother is.
Yeah.
Because they all think he's alive. Or she's alive.
Yeah, because that is during that one, and that one is after.
So I also realized something.
Yeah.
Our timelines are thrown.
Yep.
They are.
Because we've been told there's going to be a 10-year gap in Stormlight. But that means there's going to be an 80-year gap off world.
Because
what
the time
happens
dilation thing.
80 years after Era 2?
Era 3?
Era 3. So they'll be happening close together.
Was it confirmed that that's how far it would be?
Said it's going to be about an 80-year jump.
Okay.
So they should be happening concurrently.
And
so it's probably going to be that
right about concurrently.
Oh man. There's too much. I haven't had time to compute everything. I honestly haven't. It's too much.
Also, another tiny thing. Holy crap. Sigil's Spren, the high Spren.
Venti? Or no,
his high Spren.
Ox?
Ox was freaking Zeth's Spren.
He was 12124.
12124.
I was all worried that Ox was Venti, but no.
Did y'all figure that? Did y'all figure that out when they met, or did you figure it out when he left?
When he left.
When they were heading out together, that's when I was like, oh.
Okay. No, I figured it out when, like, because he's leaving it off because they were saying, oh, you're just an auxiliary of your Spren. I was like, auxiliary? Ox?
Wait, who said that when?
Was it
I think that's what
was it Nail's high Spren?
Yeah, I think that's what Nail said.
Oh, I could he probably did say something like
when
that.
When 12124 left, he was like, you're just an auxiliary of your radiant.
Of your radiant.
And he was like, maybe that's not so bad. And now his name is auxiliary.
Yeah, it didn't click till they got together.
No, I didn't even catch that.
As soon as they used the word auxiliary, I was just like, that's him.
That's why I don't like having to rush the end reading, because I miss stuff because I'm rushing. Oh man.
There's so much that happened. There's so much that happened.
There were dogs. I know this is a random transition, but there were dogs. That makes me really happy and sad at the same time. Yeah. That's how you get Axhounds, is they wanted to make dogs again.
Uh-huh.
Anyway.
Because they lost dogs.
Okay, but part of that same thing, I think they saw young Raboniel. Because there's a moment where Navani is, as they're there for the arrival of the humans and they're seeing it through Singer eyes, Navani's looking and she's like, there's something familiar about that female in.
Oh, I was thinking that it was one of our people, like one of Shalon and her crew.
No, I think it's because we know Raboniel said she was there, I thought.
I
when
don't
the
even
humans
remember.
arrived. And
Okay.
so if there's going to be a female in that looks sort of familiar to Navani,
could probably
there's only one
Raboniel.
answer.
Yeah.
The only one she was frenemies with.
Yeah.
That's a very good possibility. I hadn't even thought about that. It does make sense because she was one of the old fused.
Old fused, yeah.
In chat, light blinded fool. The 10 years until book 6 is going to seem like 80 years on Earth.
Oh, yeah.
You're not wrong.
Oh man.
Okay, I don't even know where to settle down okay, let's talk about Adolin. Because
and
Adolin
the Power Rangers that he assembled?
The Unoathed. I was like, as soon as like the armor came back and it started glowing as well, I was like, oh yes.
Well,
I kept waiting for that Chekhov's gun to fire with him in his shard. And as soon as what was the name of the not Unmade, the
Unoathed?
No, the
Abadi. Abadi is stupid.
Abadi?
I don't like Abadi.
Yeah, Abadi. I think is how they say it in the audio.
I did love the moment as soon as he gets the plate back on, he's just like, oh, storms.
And I was like, oh, you You had this coming.
Well, I love the theme. We see that Maya is acting, like she's a soldier, and what are all his spren? I like to now imagine their spren form is like a bunch of little toy soldiers now, as they're over, sir.
They're like, sir.
I find it so interesting because Adolin, like, he's clearly an unoathed. He's not a part of any Radiant Order, but he keeps fulfilling the Edge Dancer stuff.
Yeah, I think.
Again, the spren that he's gathered are the forgotten. He's remembering those who have been forgotten.
Yeah, he totally is. But it's just kind of, it feels like he's thematically filling the gap with the transition from the traditional Radiance to whatever we're going to have later. And he's just kind of that in between in that. And it works well for Stormlight is not around. So how do you get around it? You fix the auto mushroom thing, and you have Spren coming back from being dead ice, and they independently choose to do it.
And so, because of that, he's kind of back on top.
Oh,
because he's as much a Radiant as anybody is right now, because they have no Stormlight other than right in Urithiru. But no, it like as soon as he said like unoathed, what was it, armor up or arm yourselves or something, I'm just like did we just have a Springers event, a symbol?
I still preferred the Power Rangers just because of all the colorful armor, but yeah.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Oh, that's just amazing.
Well, I've been saying for years that Adolin is Captain Cosmerica.
Cosmere what?
Cosmerica.
Oh goodness. Oh no, it was tough seeing him like get so low when he had to do the spear stuff. But then there was these little moments where he's like, wait, Kaladin did this and he came out of it. So I just got to keep going. And I'm like,
I also did really love the line where as he's trying to take on Abadai, he's over here. It's like, he's going to have to take on someone in shard plate when he doesn't have any shards, which is a feat he's fairly certain has only happened once in the past millennia. But it's like, okay. And it's like, and that guy was like, one of the best soldiers ever. Okay, but this guy is not as skilled as the guy. And it's like, yeah, but you're only fighting on one peg leg. And it's like, yeah, but at the same time, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. So we're gonna.
And I have aluminum everywhere in this room, so I can block your shard blade.
I kept waiting for that one as well, but I just love the idea of just picking up the candelabra. It sounds so Pirates of the Caribbean. Ha ha! With the candelabra.
I know, but it's like, use what you got. And Adolin, and like seeing all of his training with Zahel that just like totally paid off. And it's like, expect to have not good footing. Expect this. Just be that amazing of a swordsman and a fighter that you can just improvise.
And it's aluminum. It blocks the shard blade.
Yep. And I mean, you could bet that. So is Abadi all the way gone, or is he? Well, he stomped out his gem heart.
Yeah, but that's just killed.
Oh, so he'll come back.
He's the same as any fused.
Okay. I kept thinking there was something different, but you can bet he's going to not want to admit how he died. Yeah, he put a candelabra through my eye, and then he took my armor from me. And
well, you think about because El probably will not be pleased with him the same way he wasn't pleased with the Pursuer.
True. Yeah, he may not come back after that.
So.
Which I'm okay with, because he was.
El is terrifying.
No, the one of the other I loved the game of towers that he kept training Gox in.
Gox with, I know.
Chess meets Magic the Gathering.
Yes, but I love of all the epigraphs, my favorite were the proverbs for towers and war. Where it was just giving you like little tool, very Sun Tzu type stuff, but it's actually for a game that's meant to simulate war itself. But there was one where when it happened, I was like, holy crap, that was foreshadowing what Dalinar was going to do. And I've got it here. because this was one of the proverbs for towers and works. There was the one where it talked about the fool, when losing, seek to flip the board and scatter the pieces. This is not an adage for towers, but there was a companion. Rarely, the wise will also seek in loss to flip the board and scatter the pieces. But if you do this, it is likely the last time you will play. That is also not an adage for towers.
Oh,
because that's what Adalinar did.
He did.
He realized this.
I can't win.
Yeah, I can't win. So don't play the game that as the board is set up. Flip the board.
Mhm.
Table flip.
This is not a metaphor for life.
Yep. It's a metaphor for pissing off Taravangian.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Which, okay, just with how personal Taravangian made it, my jaw hit the freaking floor when Cultivation went for Kerbranth and then he sacrificed it. And I was just like,
except he didn't, because
he lied.
And that's the
I
thing.
know.
When it came back, I love that he's sitting there. He's made of custom vision so that he can keep them around. And he seethes at Dalinar inside because it turns out he was right. There was something he wasn't willing to sacrifice.
I just, that just, I don't even want him to have that little bit of comfort. I mean, I feel bad for the people of Kerbranth, but I don't want Todium Retribution, whatever we're calling him now. I don't want him to have that because I don't. Brandon writes such good bad guys that just get under your skin, and I don't do well with them. I get
I'd say Taravangian is if not his best, at least among his best, but possibly.
Oh
his best.
yeah, and that's so. Like, if I can step back and look at it and go, no, he's really smart, and he sets down all these things that make sense why he's that way and stuff. But the reader, just like the gut reader in me, is like, no, I just want him to stop. I don't like it. I don't like that he's beating the good guys. I don't. So it's always that struggle with me where they're well written and it's a good conflict, but I don't like that the good guys don't just stomp them.
Speaking of the Blackthorn.
Oh,
yes.
That's not cool. I don't like
I love this.
Horrifying.
Yeah.
Because even though Dalinar avoided it, he still got the Blackthorn.
I love the concept of this, though, where we're really starting to play with the fact that these legends start taking on a life of their own with how the cognitive realm works. And it makes you start... It's the idea of the Blackthorn like becoming this like boogeyman. I love this. Oh, it's so juicy.
Oh. I feel so bad for Navani though, like when she finds out, if she finds out what happened.
What's happened.
And like I'm afraid of if there's ever going to be a confrontation between her and the Blackthorn, because I don't know that he would.
Is the bondsmith, so.
And I don't know that he would give her mercy, and I don't like
Doesn't
it.
give anyone mercy.
He wouldn't.
I know. I don't like
Blackthorn is the one who killed his first wife.
He didn't intentionally kill her, at least, but I can see this one doing it.
But this version of the Blackthorn would
have no hesitation.
Dalinar. This is an untempered Dalinar.
Yeah. Well, and you got to remember the whole the power of honor. It didn't see a problem with Evie dying. It's like, well, she went back on her word.
She went back and talked to them when she wasn't.
So that's
supposed
okay. So that's okay.
I like the way that Brandon explores these technically virtuous things that are untempered by other balancing aspects.
Well, and I can't remember which vision it was where we learned like that's one of the reasons it went after devotion so early. It got rid of the tempering power because like that's because she's supposed to be God's love, as opposed.
It was Dalinar thinking about it, or somebody was thinking about it. Was it him talking to Noadon? Was that what it was?
No, it was somewhere else.
I feel like it was earlier than that.
Yeah, I think it was earlier. But they were discussing the fact that the first thing it went after was ambition, which that makes total sense. That'd be the biggest rival to what.
And then you get rid of the love, and then you just. But it's like
the love and the and dominion,
dominion
which is,
and devotion. Yeah.
And it's just And the fact that we now know it's because it did something to get them to start fighting each other first.
Which is like, oh no.
We don't know what, but something.
Mhm. Something did it, yeah.
do have to say the foreshadowing to Dalinar's gambit at the very end was brilliant.
Yes.
Where the whole where he suddenly makes the enemy too powerful to ignore, so that everyone has to combine.
Because he's like, you guys have ignored this, and now you can't ignore it anymore because I'm shoving it in your face. So deal with it.
Well, and the other thing of in the Mistborn series, there's all this duality. It's all this pushing and pulling, and people who are contradictions, and that's sort of the running theme. But there hasn't been a ton of handing it off to the next generation outside of the very first book, where that was Kelsier's entire plan, where he was going to sacrifice himself and give his friends the tools they need to solve the problem. Whereas that is the entire story of Roshar, of just survive to the next generation with each recreance and just get there. And so Dalinar doing this is the ultimate, just, I'm trying to give you guys enough time. That combined with the fact with what Kaladin does in joining the Heralds, which, holy crap. And he's going to go therapize with them for...
he's going to be so we already had... what is Breeze's title?
The Counselor of the Gods.
So we have the Therapist of the Gods.
Okay. One of my favorite things is Shar, what are you? I'm a therapist.
What is
I'm
that?
sorry.
I have no idea.
I'm sorry. I rolled my eyes at that point. It was just like, what are you? I'm his therapist.
I love, because that's what the term that, and it's the proper term that Hoyd uses, but I love the idea.
Nobody else knows what it is. Yeah.
Well, no one's ever heard of this. No one's ever heard of this term. And so it's like, I'm a therapist. What is that? I don't know. I'm figuring that out.
I don't really know yet. I'm figuring it out.
I'm working on it.
Oh, God.
I would really love if it's a word that doesn't quite translate into Lethi. But he's just like, sort of saying it.
I rolled my eyes at that point. I will say, I was just like, I actually stopped and I said, come on, Brandon.
Oh.
Okay. Speaking of therapy, Amy, I think it's time to talk about something that I know is going to be hard.
Oh, is this where you're going to feel smug and tell me about the thing that you predicted that I really didn't want to have happen?
Not smug. I wasn't going to. Now that you brought it up, and in that way, I don't feel as bad feeling smug. But Gavinor.
I had a note. I'm going to read. I have to figure out where my note is because there's something I wrote down. But keep talking about the terrible thing that I don't like.
The one thing about it that did kind of bother me a little bit is it happened so suddenly.
Yeah.
And I was just like, Brent, you needed to build that a little bit more. But like all of the pieces had been laid out. They just hadn't quite been lined up quite.
I feel like they needed to have lost Gavinor after he saw the vision with Dalinar. And like maybe they kept almost getting him back, but he kept seeing the worst version.
Yes, I agree. I think it would have worked really well that way. And I still think it works. I mean, obviously I think it works. I predicted it. But the reason I predicted it is because I knew how heart-wrenching it would be. And it still was.
Well, and
it still hurt.
It was the perfect counterpoint, because the whole point is Taravangian wants to be right. And literally, he can set up a trolley problem right here. And just what's the line from Spider-Man? This is why a fool chooses the path of a hero, because you never know when some psychopath is going to force you to make a sadistic choice.
Oh, sheesh. I don't even remember that line. But no, yeah, like it just... It's so frustrating because I can understand why Gavinor totally goes with it and thinks, yep, this is totally how it is, because he was 5. And he already had so many traumatic things happen to him, and he was smaller, and he only had this little chunk of time with his grandparents, and then he gets stuck with Todium for 20 years. And he's only getting fed just the words that Todium wants, and it just So it doesn't matter what Dalinar says, because Todium's going to predict generally what any excuse he's going to give, and it just grates.
Yeah.
So I'm really wondering how, I mean, there's going to be a time skip, so we're not really going to see how everybody else deals with him. I mean, there's like the snippet where they're like, and Gavinor is suddenly 30 years old, or, you know, or some crazy, you know, 25 or something like that. And they're like, we're going to have to process that. But they don't give the page space for really doing that, because Gavinor's kind of in shock anyway.
So so after the 10 years, it'll be very interesting to see. Somebody in chat, where was it? Last Centurion mentioned something. It was like, it'll be interesting to see what Cal looks like after being trained by Tal. It's just like, oh my.
Yeah, I mean, Kaladin's already really good at what he does, but with Tal training with him,
we've seen him against heralds, and he was thrown around like a ragdoll. You know, I mean, like, we saw him fight Nail.
Yeah, and Nail was toying with him.
And Nail was toying with him, and Nail is not the greatest fighter among them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of, I can see why Brandon didn't have Taln doing his big fight on screen, but oh my goodness,
I did love the build-up of Ash being, you dumb idiots.
It's like, oh, you came after the broken in here.
You shouldn't have oughta done that.
It's like, oh, you messed up.
Oh, also, we now have the 16th Shard's name.
Yep, we do. Reason.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
We also have several vessel names.
And Reason ran away. Like, that's the, like, it's like,
that's the one that was hiding and surviving.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh no, it was the vessels. I wrote those down.
Eurydius is Reason.
Yeah.
Eurydius is a dragon, correct?
I believe
so. Hold on.
And there was one name that sounded very Shodal.
Chankosar. Invention.
Yeah, Invention. Who doesn't have like a specific planet, but I have to guess that they're involved with Canticle.
Yeah, that feels very Canticle. And Valor is Medalantorius,
who's a dragon too.
Which is a dragon name. Like, that's very dragon-ish.
Which, okay, I doubt this is why, but I liked that when Taravangian's looking around, it's like, okay, there's that shard. That one's dead. That's this. There's two. How are these two hiding from me? Like, okay, there's one, and it's before Brandon reveals the name Reason. And it's like, okay, well, that one, I can kind of make sense. How is Valor hiding from me? And I'm just over here screaming my book, because discretion's the better part of Valor.
I also thought that, like, wasn't Valor the one that was on Komashi and had kind of splintered themselves?
No, that's Virtuosity.
Virtuosity. Yeah. Okay. They both start with V. I feel justified in being confused.
Fair enough.
But I was just like, what is that? Okay. Because that's where I thought it was. Nope. Got that wrong. Okay.
I also like that we got one more letter from Endowment to sort of re-highlight, just like, yeah, the shards are 100% willing to just let this be a Roshar problem.
They're just letting it be over there because it's...
It reminds me very much of sort of the like the state of America in World War II before they got involved, where it was very much just
it's over there.
Look,
it's in Europe.
It's over there. We got involved in the First World War. We don't want to do that again because that was supposed to be the war to end all wars.
It was nasty.
And then Pearl Harbor happens, and it's like, okay, well, now it's my problem.
Well,
you made it my problem. Now, speaking of dragon names, we noticed Tanavast. His actual name was Tanner, and like I've thought, you know, the Avast part probably came from his pairing with Corvellium.
Corvellium, yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that, but yeah.
Tanner, Avast, Tanavast.
Yeah, and it was interesting that apparently Race was always trying to egg him on by calling him Tanner, even though he's like, stop, I don't like that name. Stop, I don't like that name. But
it's like, yeah, calling somebody by a childhood nickname.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, we're not friends like that. Stop.
Yeah. Oh, so total shift of mood. I was really worried when we got the Zahel Vasher chapter, and I was like, oh, they're torturing him and the chicken? That's not okay. And then Lift goes and gets them. And I was like, yes.
Okay, Lift had some fun chapters this time. I am liking her evolution as a character, as she's finally
stepping out from being
becoming willing to grow up.
Mm-hmm. More than just staring at people's butts. So
I am very interested to see 25-year-old Lift.
I love seeing how Lift finds a way to deal with one of the most powerful people in the Cosmere, a full-born feruchemist. Where it's it's brutal. It's so brutal. Where it's like, how do you defeat someone with super speed? You stop them, dead stop, and make it so that their ankles just snap.
And it's like,
not so fast anymore, are you?
Yeah, because I think, what is it like? Does she end up touching her like as she's about to grab her, and then it just stops her? Is that what it was?
Oh, I thought she just stuck the floor.
Was it the floor?
That's what it. Yeah, okay. It was the floor. She
made the floor sticky,
which is a power she very rarely uses.
But she has shown the ability to use the opposite many times.
Oh yeah,
because she doesn't only slick herself; she slicks other things around her.
And like, especially when she's getting loose from people, she'll do that to to get out of stuff. But that was, and I did like that. The whole reason that she was able to find him was because the parrot was talking, and it's like, oh, and it was because the hell was talking to the parrot, and it was like, oh.
Well, the other thing though, it also highlights how does Zyle stand torture. He just keeps erasing his memory, which is a foreshadowing to what Ishar decides to do with the Oath Pact to help them survive the torture. We'll put our minds somewhere else so that it doesn't matter.
Because we just rebuild our bodies and it's fine.
If you're mentally not experiencing the torture, then what does it matter? Especially because you're going to have a new body when you. Yeah. It makes sense. And meanwhile, Kaladin is giving the group therapy.
Yeah.
And Scylla's there with him.
I know.
In her princess dress.
And
now all the shippers can be okay now because they're both cognitive shadows.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that. I still feel weird. Still gonna feel weird.
Okay. And she's full size.
When she wants to be. Because she can. And I mean, we see from Ox, I guess, who we know will be Ox, that the Spren can free themselves now because all of the shards are not connected the way they used to be. So that explains how Spren can now be free, except we know Design is still there.
But she's not stuck there.
She's not stuck, but Hoyt at the time didn't know how to get her off.
Yeah.
Well, when Hoyt left...
Oh, it was right. It was right then. Yeah.
Yeah, it was right before she could have come.
I'm willing to bet Design's going to find her way to Hoyt.
Probably.
That would make sense.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah, she probably would.
No, that would definitely make sense. Okay, question in chat. From the Rickety Bridge, the Iriali went on another pilgrimage. Does anyone know all the places they've been? So we know they end up on Scadrial after this because there are rumors in the broadsheets of a golden-haired people showing up on the fringes of society.
That's true. Yeah. Where were the other places they were?
Later they'll end up on Lumar.
Yeah.
Because there's mention of them, at some point.
But
hold on.
And which journey was this? Was this the fourth journey they said they were going on?
The fifth.
The fifth.
Okay. I believe Kusikesh says this is the fifth journey.
Do we know how many journeys there are supposed to be? 7?
I feel like it's 7.
I don't know.
But I don't
7
know.
Sounds right. But...
There's a series of 7 lands which all must be attained before they become one again.
Okay.
4th is Roshar.
So the fifth is probably Scadrial, I would guess.
Yeah, let's see. I'm trying to see if it tells me. No, it doesn't. It doesn't say anything other than Lumar.
I'm fairly certain it's the fifth.
Yeah,
I don't
So
know.
the fourth land is Roshar, so them going to the next place.
So this is the fifth.
Yeah.
And then
probably
Lumar
Scadrial
at some point.
Yeah.
Chad also points out we now know 2 Dawnshard names.
Oh yeah.
Yes, we have Change and Exist,
which fits with Hoyd. I can see how it attaches well to him.
Speaking of,
they're also kind of counterpart, because Change and Exist is almost like don't change, just be what you are. Not entirely, but like, yeah.
I love when he becomes Retribution. He's like, all right, there's one traitor down. And it's like, but there's another Oathbreaker to deal with. Wit.
It's like, where is Wit? It's
Wit?
Like,
and Wit comes bursting in, kicks Lyran out, and he's like, okay, dude, I just need you to say yes. I need you to say yes. I need you to say yes.
When it's like, okay, so this is what, like, as soon as that scene started happening, it was like, this is why Brandon wanted people to read The Sunlit Man first.
Which I now want to reread.
Oh
Sunlit
my goodness!
Man.
Oh, absolutely!
I needed to reread it anyway, and it's like even more.
I want to reread Sunlit Man, and I want to reread The Lost Metal.
Yeah.
Oh, I need to reread like everything, but I'm like, I don't have time to reread everything. How? What?
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of The Lost Metal, now that we get Hoyt's interview to become
interview there.
Fan. Oh gosh, that was wonderful.
And it's like, well, we're going to accept you because the last guy went driving off the cliff.
So
isn't that the fake death of
exactly
of the
and it's
uncle
like,
and sister?
wow, that is so callous.
Yeah.
But it also explains because Hoyt has the whole thing where he's like, and it's like, oh, she didn't really respond to, all my insanity that's going on. So she must have her head on her shoulders. She's just incredibly desensitized because of how weird everything's been for her.
She's like, your warm body, you can drive. Go for it. Cool. We'll do that. It's fine.
And the fact that Ulam was the one watching over his stuff.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because Ulam's the one in Tress, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
And in
is he on Scadrial?
I believe.
Yeah, at this point, apparently.
Okay.
No,
I'd forgotten that he was there too. It's been too long. Hold on, let's look up.
But what was it? I was just thinking. Oh, I remember when Dalinar pulled his gambit and Taravangian picks up Honor and becomes Retribution. I just had this flash of Aladdin. Phenomenal cosmic powers. Itty bitty living space. But rather than itty bitty living space, it's the Metal Gear exclamation point, and everyone just looks at him immediately.
Well, it's such a great. I love the concept because that was the whole thing. Dalinar's over here. It's like, okay, I either give him me and 1,000 years to prepare, or he gets to be right and 1,000 years to prepare. It's terrible. Like, this guy's the most brilliant of all the shards. And, like, even Hoyd's over here going like, this is maybe like the worst person to have this. And I love now that we have the context of why Cultivation tried this. And she, like, what her hope was, and where she's like, I know this is a gamble.
And what do you mean? What were you
picking him? She had the whole thing where she's like, you don't have to do this. And so he's like, okay. At first he's like, I'll let my mind rule, and then I'll let the emotion rule. Now both agree. And she's like, okay, but what do you? Because you're not just these two things. And they then snap together. And he's like, oh, this was her gambit. And like, he even appreciates, like, I see what she's trying to do. Like, this is a risk. And it's like, but yeah, that could work out. Nah,
I'm not going to do that. No, I have to be right. And it's like,
it's terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. And now the more we keep hearing about how despicable a person race was, the more I'm like, okay, I'm interested in the Dragonsteel books.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see who he was, because they're talking about how he was the worst person that Hoyd has ever known. And this is like,
it was the honor.
Hoyd's known a lot of
honor
people.
section where we got a lot of that detail, because he was thinking back, because he was
Mm.
reaching out to the other powers, where he's like, okay, maybe I'll try Aona. You know, she was so kind. I'll try Ati, who was just the best person in the world. Maybe Laris, this strong warrior. Maybe Valor, who fights gods and all this other stuff.
Oh yeah.
But I couldn't find him, and you're just like, oh, just keep drip feeding me this lore.
Just
I need
give
it.
me a little snippet. It's fine. I'll just take
Yeah, I
this.
just
It's
need
fine.
one more hit of lore. Come on, man.
Well,
Just
I
give me
also
more.
liked it in that context more, because like in Rhythm of War, we got a bunch of them of that kind of little drop in the epigrams.
Yeah.
Mm.
And in this one, I was just like, okay, this is actually something I feel like Tanavast might ruminate on.
Yeah.
And so
That he's thinking
And
through it, like, and
the
oh yeah,
others
they were this
felt
way. and
like
this
it
way.
was. The others kind of felt like this was Brandon dropping tidbits for us.
Yeah. Which,
Mm.
the
This one,
epigrams are kind of for.
right, and it works well enough, but it was one of those where I saw the strings a little bit with that. With this one, I was like, I know exactly what you're doing, but I don't see the strings, so this works better.
You worked it. You folded in the cheese. You folded in the lore real well, so it works.
Exactly.
But just
Yeah. No. Another thing that was the thing I really liked, was how in so many of the other stories we were seeing little tidbits that were hinting towards what would go on in Dalinar's story, like the whole the flipping of the table thing was one thing, but we also got the whole hints from like I liked Venli's story so much more this time.
Oh, she was awesome in this
and her chasm friends.
Yes.
Okay, we'll talk about the Chasm Frizz when we come back, but it's time for us to take a break.
Oh,
So,
shoot. Yeah, it is.
All right, so we'll see y'all in just a bit. And we're back. Okay, so what was it that I said that we'd get back to as soon as we came back? It was the Chasm Friends. It was the Chasm Friends.
Chasm friends, yes.
Speaking of, first off, Chasm Friends is a wonderful, wonderful thing, because at Dragonsteel, one of the things that was there was a trading card game that had stories, and one of them was about the Chasm Friends. It's this adorable little story, like I haven't read the whole thing yet.
I haven't read it yet either, but the art is
have
horrible.
the whole thing yet.
Oh no!
But it's like very Dragon Tales-esque.
Mm-hmm. We need to talk after, and I'll see if I have any of the cards you're missing, because I have some extras.
I'm missing 3 cards now total.
Okay,
I have
we'll
everything
see.
else. I don't have all of the nonsense or all of the foils.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm fine with, and of course I don't have all the heralds.
When we
because
do our
Yeah.
Dragonsteel recap, we will put out a call for all cards we're missing and see if we can abuse streamer privilege.
Oh gosh, that is very tempting.
Tempting nothing. I'm 100% doing it.
Oh gosh.
Anyway,
So,
yeah.
yeah. Anyway,
Chasm friends.
Vinley and her Chasm Friends.
Yeah, which is
That would totally be a Stormlight Rock band.
it would. The
And I
Chasm
want
Friends.
Stormlight Rock to be a genre. We've got Wizard Rock from Harry Potter. We
Hey,
can
they're
have
the
Stormlight
they're the
Rock.
world formed of songs. It works.
It totally works. Oh man. So like it was really interesting seeing the rationale of how the chasm fiends were attacking humans and stuff like that, is because they were being attacked and they're like, oh, so we're trying to establish dominance. Okay, we can do that. And it just didn't occur to them.
Makes sense from like an alpha animal mentality.
That it's like the bigger ones are stronger and they push around the littler ones, and once they've established dominance, they don't hurt them otherwise, because they need them for the population and everything. And but
it's interesting because the chasm fiends are semi-intelligent.
yeah, because we know that they have to have spren for how they get so big and don't collapse.
Exactly.
Same like how the
that's
Larkin
the case
have
for
those.
all the great shells.
All the great shells have that. So I'm assuming those spren give them that little extra oomph of whatever it is.
I would guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
what's the same as the Rashadium, and
Mm-hmm.
where they're a little smarter than they're supposed to be.
Well, and the
And
Rashadium are a little different, though, because they're a foreign species that has sort of integrated into the planet.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing where they've made bonds with other
Mm-hmm.
Spren, and they're smarter than they should be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I loved the part where they're assaulting the plateau with them after they've made their deal with the fused, and they'd be like, okay, no, but we don't eat humans. And they're just like, we don't understand. Okay, so we can eat some humans? Okay, are those, do we get to eat those humans? Okay, I guess we understand. We don't eat humans because they're not healthy for us or something.
Because they're not fatty enough. Just like the same as how sharks don't want to eat people because we're not fatty enough for them either. So.
And then it's like, sure. Like,
they're a little stringy.
And then I love that it was Thude and Venli after the battle, and they were trying to trick the Fuse and stuff, and being like, oh well, they're just so hungry, and they just like they do a big fight, and then they just kind of like are slugs, so we just gotta like let them chill out for a minute. So we'll just stay here.
Oh,
it's
that
like,
was
It's like, you guys go ahead and do your thing, and it's like,
okay,
oh,
so they're gonna play fat dog for a bit, and then
the more we get of L, the more I want to know more about L, because L, it turns out, is just the least toxic gamer in history.
You're not wrong.
He's just like, no, they outplayed us. We just gotta be okay with that. And the person's like, well, whatever, we'll just take it from them. And just like, it's like in Pirates of the Caribbean when someone says hang the code and then they get shot by a rock star.
Oh, sheesh. No, it's like it makes me feel even more vindicated in last year's panel where I did Brandon's Bestiary and I got Chasm fiends to be like voted best pet, and I was like, yes. Which made me really happy.
They let you pet them and scritch them. It's great.
I know, and I'm like, now I feel so much more justified that you just got to be able to speak the tones with them, and it's fine.
Although Cheery's getting bigger now, so
yeah, it's like she's a small dog, so she fits on Risen's lap.
Okay, the Risen chapter where like Cheery's getting pissed off that she can't like hide in things anymore. and it's like, man, you and Lift.
Yeah, and I mean it totally fits with like little critters that like, especially with like puppies when they're especially big breeds and they want to try and fit into the same small places or totally fit on your lap or whatever else, and it's like, you don't fit. You are too big now.
Jeez. So the Risen chapter where suddenly the Dawnshards try to come together.
Well, yeah, I love the concept of, Wit comes in and suddenly stuff starts happening. He's like, what is that? No, why are you here? What happened?
He's like, no, not okay. And then
Nickley's over here like, oh, crap.
No, you guys gotta go watch.
I love everyone being like, and it's like, there shouldn't be two of these on one planet. And it's like, yeah. And you brought one where odium is? Yeah.
It's like, oh my goodness, really?
And he's like, this is the most dangerous thing, Sigil, the most dangerous thing ever, and there's not a worse thing to get than odium. And you brought it to this planet? I already told you I'm an idiot, okay?
The other revelation is that Hoyd has picked up the Dawnshard again, because we knew that he had it and gave it up, and now he has it again.
Because the best way to hide it is to make people think,
oh, he already had it, and yeah.
That's why it's setting off all our sensors.
Oh gosh,
which is fine until he accidentally walks into a room with another one,
and then meanwhile Risen finds out, oh, I've got to go. I have all of this stuff set up, and
now I gotta go. Now that things are starting to get good and whatever. I mean, it probably would have been really rough for her when everything else happens, at the very end. But I do have to wonder how it's going to work out for Cheery with not being able to for getting more investiture.
Gravity Spren and
yeah.
I mean, yeah, it'll be very,
because the Spren can leave now, so that's not the problem. But getting, well, I guess she probably could eat other kinds of investiture.
Well, the other thing is that now the
'cause we've already
trade,
seen she
like
can
the
eat
investiture,
void
would probably flow even more freely off of Roshar because of Bioto Mishram's freeing. Because like
Mm,
the Sprin were bound, but it was also hard to transport most of the other stuff.
yeah.
Now that block is gone.
Yeah.
Although
Well,
getting into and out of the
perpendicularities, like the cognitive versus the physical
cognitive
realm.
realm
Yeah.
is more difficult.
That's where Shalon's having issues, is getting out.
Although it's interesting that that Odium's perpendicularity is in the same place, because we know that the Well of Ascension and the pool from the mountains aren't where the perpendicularity is anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, and something that just occurred to me: Spren would now be safe because there's no honor light, so you can't make anti-stormlight. You could you might
it'd be
be able
hard
to
to create it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you'd have to separate void light out or war
Yeah.
light out,
Yeah.
which is a more difficult process.
Although
Which it
I mean,
was already hard, and now it's probably harder because you don't have the normal components
Yeah.
freely
well,
available.
like if they were able to combine it, they may be able to figure out how to separate it out now.
Well, we know it's possible because Navani's
Well, we saw
done
what
it.
happened. Well, and we saw what happened with Lerasium and Adium.
Yeah, I'm just saying
Yeah.
it's now harder to do it. So
Mm. So in theory,
that-
they're safer-ish, kind of.
yeah,
That's right. Chiri Chiri can eat void light. She could also probably eat war light.
Yeah, I think I was, because I feel like, doesn't she have to go back to the islands to go do stuff there, or is it to molt
You mean
and
to
get
Amia?
bigger? Yeah, to Amia.
It's possible. Yeah, it'll be interesting. The other thing also I'm trying to figure out is it's part of me is wondering how much of this is how much of Risen leaving so suddenly that's how Brandon planned it out, and how much of it is Brandon needs Risen to be somewhere else and everything's about to get locked, so he needs to get her out before it gets locked. And so
Which I
little
could
from
see.
column A, little from column B.
I
yeah.
could see that.
And
Yeah.
so but the reason I bring that up is, where does Brandon need Risen to be? Because I feel like there's a story for Risen somewhere.
In an
I don't
Iron
know
Man
that-
chair armor.
Yeah, I mean, I guess she would look less weird in a floating wheelchair on Scadrial, because they could always argue that there's some allomancy doing it.
You say a floating wheelchair. She doesn't have the mixed axon or axes, because
And they won't have Stormlight.
her chair won't work off of Roshar.
Oh no!
So she'll be back in a regular wheelchair probably, unless there's something in Scadrial with steel pushing,
which I'm sure they could do.
You could do it with Warlight. They'll just need to find a way to start getting Warlight.
Oh,
right?
sheesh.
But
Yeah, that's
because that's the thing is right now her chair, like all of that, is connected to something on Roshar. That axial connection is
there. Yeah,
based on Roshar, and Roshar is not
functioning the same.
Yeah, like in all honesty, even if it was working across that big distance, I would probably guess that whatever mechanism she had set up is trashed now.
Probably.
Well, no, or yeah, the physical mechanism.
Yes.
It would need to be rebuilt.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, she knows the theory of how to do it, so she could, with enough help. I mean, especially since she has the Kremling people that sleepless. Yes, I was going to say the unseen, and I'm like, that's not right. The sleepless.
Mm-hmm.
They
the
probably
court,
know things.
the unoathed, the
There's too many words.
Too many
the
groups.
Unseelie. The thing is, the Unseelie court is the Fey court. Is one of those. Anyway, so there's too many words. But yeah, so I mean, I think they would have the connections to help her get around in some way, even if she has to be in a normal push wheelchair for a little while.
Right. Well, and it just sort of depends on where she ends up.
Yeah.
Because we know that she's not on Roshar, but where is she? Because there's a lot of places she could go.
Yeah, I mean, what if she went to Nalthis?
What if she goes to Threnody and Chiri just starts chomping down on Shades?
Oh, buddy. That'd be scary. Oh.
She's like a ghost muncher. She's Pac-Man!
She's Pac-Man!
She is Pac-Man.
My brain saw the picture before you said it, but yes, Pac-Man.
I was thinking Kirby, but Pac-Man's perfect.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man.
No, the other thing that just going through the stories, we haven't even touched on Zeth.
There's so much. Well, first off, okay, Zeth. The first thing I want to talk about was Zeth, which is completely different from probably what everyone else wants to talk about. But the author of Knights of Wind and Truth is his wife.
Yeah, that's trippy.
And like we find out because there was the mention of the old couple where they got the wagon, and it's just like he gonna fall in love, and okay, this is interesting.
Okay, and Nightblood is growing and has apparently learned how to be an honor blade.
All of the honor blades,
all of them.
He's the Mistborn of honor blades.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and he took the oath to like not hurt his friends. And it's like,
yep.
What?
Well, he's not a thing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
He like destroy evil is not all he can do now. It's suddenly we have an evolving Nightblood.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we did see Nightblood in the cognitive realm. It wasn't an eldritch puppy.
Oh.
Instead, it was a blade of
glowing
light.
Sword. Glowing
because it's how he sees himself.
He sees himself as a friggin' lightsaber.
He thinks he's a paladin.
He works with Kaladin.
Oh, man.
Kaladin the paladin.
He totally is. Like, I'll be typing the word Kaladin in my notes, and sometimes my phone will be like Paladin, and I'm like, no, Kaladin. It's similar, but no.
After a while, it's fun when it starts to learn these strange words, and then it starts to autocorrect to those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like when it capitalized the word breakfast, which is the gamer name of one of my friends, which unfortunately meant that the text I sent to Bill implied that we were going to cannibalize one of our friends.
That's what it was.
No, man.
But, no, so yeah, Nightblood is growing, learning, is a really good sword, and on top of it all, all the honor bearers are freaking zombies.
I know.
Yeah.
And like the traditional, like voodoo style zombie, where they're literally just bound to one person's will.
I have a question, speaking of. Does my prediction of Elid dying count?
She was dead. Was your prediction that she would die during the book?
I predicted that she would die in this book.
She
She technically did die.
She definitely died during this book,
right? But it's like, but she was already dead.
Were you saying it's on screen or no?
Well, remember what the rule was.
I can't remember what I said.
Do you remember what the rule for dying though was? Because I made the death prediction list, and the rule is they have to go to the beyond. Because we now have too many wibbly wobbly versions of death.
And she did go to the beyond.
Because
Okay.
Sword Nimi was like, no, they go to the happy place, where at the end, type thing, and it's like, okay, so he doesn't hold their souls; they go to the beyond.
I like that Brandon realized that this would be distressing to his readers. He's like, okay, I have to address this.
I cannot make them think that Nightblood is actually that evil, because no, it's not okay.
Okay, and I kept waiting every single time they were bringing up honor around Kaladin. I'm like, say honor is dead, but I'll see what I can do. Say it again. I need this. And then he finally does it, and I'm like, finally, yes.
I did not call that, but as soon as it happened, I was just like, okay, Brandon, fine.
Cool.
There were so many points where he could have said it during the book. I'm like, come on, it's right there. Like, this is why Kaladin's a hero and I'm not, because if I were Kaladin, I'd be saying it all the freaking time.
So
like, they'd be like, hey, can you open up this jar of pickles? Honor is dead, but I'll see what I can do.
See, here's the thing. I feel like when Brandon wrote that, he thought it was cool. I don't think he realized what it would grow into among the fandom.
Oh, yeah.
And so once it grew to that, he's like, I got to use this again.
I got to use it again. But he had to use it sparingly in just the right moment because he
Very
can't just
sparingly.
drop it all the time.
I'm going to start doing it.
You are, aren't you?
Yep. Be
But
careful
no,
about requesting me to do things, Phil.
So when did you guys figure out what the voice was?
As soon as everything was nailed to the frickin' wall that we're spren.
Oh.
Well, I mean, like, what do you mean?
Like who the voice was? When did you figure it out? The capital voice.
That it was Ishar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't figure that out until the very end.
I didn't either.
As soon as we saw the flashback with Zeth going in
and being like, nope, and leaving.
Nailed to the walls, I immediately just like, oh, Ishar's the voice.
See, and I thought it was Sya-Anat.
Well, I was like, I don't know what this is, but it's freaky and I don't like it. Like, I could not pick what it was. Nothing clicked because I didn't think about.
I was thrown because it was talking about how, you know, they were talking about how the Unmade was trying to enlighten them or uplift them, and I was just like, that's what Sya-Anat does.
Oh,
and so
okay.
I was just sort of stuck on that. But then they kept using a masculine, you know, they kept saying he, and I was just like, but Sya-Anat goes feminine, so who knows?
Yeah, see, I kept thinking it was one that we hadn't seen before, and I just didn't.
Yeah, I thought up until that moment it was going to be Chemarash, or I can't remember.
Chamash. Oh yeah, I know
the Dust Mother.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. I am so confused still. I'm like, okay, what the heck are the Unmade?
Oh, apparently that was going to be all Sprenkind before they reforged the Oath Pact.
Yeah, so like so it feels like I'm guessing they were they're either uplifted, corrupted Spren, but corrupted by odium, or they're something else that he made. Just like
he uses them for raw material, and then recombines them. He remixes them into something far worse, because that was what they said he was going to do to Dalinar to make him the Blackthorn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like that's still fuzzy to me, but like I'm kind of just going with Thera thing.
Well, and that's why it's still a bit fuzzy, and I'm just like, oh, so we don't have that full answer yet. All right, I'll just fret about this for the next decade.
It's fine.
But the other thing is, the Unmade are such an interesting concept, because in so many other books I've read, the big bad's lieutenants are just fanatically loyal to the Dark Lord type thing, and they're not. Like they're clearly not.
They're Frankenstein's monster in reality.
Yeah. And some of them are cool with it, and so, like I think it almost feels like the ones who don't have much sentience are the ones who are more loyal, because they get told to do the thing, they do the thing. That's their nature. Versus Sya-Anat and the others who can think more are like, I don't like that. I'd rather do this. This would serve me better.
Very interesting with Sya-Anat, who set up a situation where no matter which side came out, Ba-Auto-Mishram would remember her as the one that helped get her out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is very interesting, because that's it's the exact same plan that Race and Taravangian set up. They set up a Xanatos gambit where no matter what happened, they should get something out of it.
Yeah.
No, Light Blinded Fool asks, can someone explain to me the wind? Is it a fallen god, right? Related to the fallen moon? No. So
it
the
was,
wind, the stone, and the night. Yeah, they're primal forces that were created by Adonalsium.
That were just naturally on Roshar when he made it.
As part of the tones.
Well, it's like they're kind of the proto-Spren almost.
Yeah. And somebody was
so they're the last vestiges of the old god of Adonalsium.
And what was Kevin's asking about the Black Fisher, and that was Digonarthus is the other name, and that was like the giant portal.
The Elf's
that they were the Elf's Gate that they were using on the Shattered Plane. That's all we saw of that one. Is that they mentioned offhand that they must have Digonarthus helping them.
Well,
do
and
that.
apparently it wants to destroy the planet.
Yeah, which
it's almost got a Galactus sort of the World Eater.
Yeah,
and it has some sort of price that has to be paid to use it. We don't know what, but.
Okay, I have a question for y'all. What do y'all have any theories regarding this fourth moon? Because they kept referencing a fourth moon and it
fell down because it was when.
I would actually like to hold off on talking about that for when we discuss epigrams, because there is one set of epigrams that might involve it. The ones that we think might involve the sleepless.
Okay.
And that's a shorter one, so
okay.
That might be one we might want to.
My quick memory of it was that it came down, whatever it was, during the conflict when Odium and Honor actually clashed. But beyond that, I don't remember.
I didn't get any clear mention of that's how that happened. We did figure out that clash caused the shattered planes.
Mm-hmm.
That was where the shattered planes were shattered, was that clash.
Yeah.
Stuff with the sleepless. Message from the Sleepless, I think it was called. But it's not so much from that, but like the last little stanza at the end of the book. I'd have to pull it out to remember where all that stuff was.
No, there's too much. My brain still hasn't even parsed everything that happened in that book because I just finished it.
One of the other things I loved was Shalon's fight with Mraize. Because so something, and Bill will know exactly who I'm bringing it up when I mention this. One of the things that annoys me in all of fiction is whenever a tiny person goes up against a big person, and we just treat it like, oh, that's fine. Like there's not some huge difference. Freaking Damian Wayne. I cannot stand him. But just whenever it's like a small child or a much smaller person compared to a big person. And every time we see it from Shalon's perspective, what does she comment about Mraize? How big he is.
She's like, we're going to deal with all of that mass.
He's a big, powerful person. And so if she had just taken him on in a straight on fight, I would have been kind of annoyed. It's like, that's not who you've built Shalon to be. She's clever.
That's not how she would fight him. That's not the way, the method she would use to fight.
And so when we finally get it, it's a freaking double gambit, getting him to drop and using his own expectations of how much he's trained. And his little knife is so smart. And getting that.
She's so good at sleight of hand. Yeah.
And get him to double think it.
Soon as that happened, I knew what she was doing.
And then she catches his blade that had all the power.
She
she convinces him that she has his knife. He drops the real knife.
Yeah.
And
because I thought that anyway, I got it. I got confusing, but I knew that she'd done some swapping with it. But I was frantically
she actually
reading.
Didn't swap. She just made them look like each other.
That's right. Yeah.
She light weaved.
Mm-hmm. I knew there was that she'd light weave.
So
stuff,
that he then assumed, holy crap, how did she do that sleight of hand?
She snuck it, and it's like, for me, and no, she sleight of handed it for me, and it's like,
no, she light of handed it.
No, and I do appreciate that. I mean, I mentioned this when we were talking about the preview chapters, like how she keeps referencing that she's been training with Adolin and stuff, and so I'm like, that she's had time to actually learn. She's not just like, poof, I'm magically really good at hand to hand. And it's like, no, she's had to work at it.
Well, and it's like, and she has a freaking good teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we've seen Adolin teaching other people as well.
Because
we haven't seen a ton of their training together,
but we know that
it's been happening, and we've seen him teach other people.
Yeah. So it's very valid, and you can see it.
Well, in this book in general, this was very satisfying because, I've made no bones about it. There are some of these. Basically, I haven't really enjoyed the Shalon books since Words of Radiance. Her parts.
Her story's been up and down for me. I have really liked other aspects of it.
But the thing is, in this book, so many things are frustrated about so many characters. These are characters at the end of a lot of their story arcs. And so we see Shalon, who is now coming to grips with, the person she is, and she's actualizing into her full, complete form. We see Kaladin. He is learning how to deal with his depression. We see Venli. She is learning to move past the fact that she's a traitor. We see Renarin, who's learning to accept that, he's this different person and that's okay. We see Adolin learning to, be okay with his father's weakness. And so a lot of these things that have been hangups in past books, everyone's starting to just get over it. Is not the right term. That's way too dismissive, but they're learning to deal with it, process it. That's the word I'm looking for.
Processing. Yeah.
They've learned how to process their way through it. Mm-hmm. And so you just see all these characters that at certain points in other books I got annoyed with finally,
figuring it out.
Yeah, they're figuring it out. And it's like I can't believe I'm enjoying the Venli chapters.
Yeah.
Like I was worried at first when I went back to the Venli chapters and I was like, oh no, she's going to get on my nerves again. But then as soon as there was a scene where she's like, no, there's good reason why they're not letting me lead. I need to step back and acknowledge that, yeah, I'm trying hard to fix things, but I seriously screwed up and I backstabbed everybody. So I'm not in charge and I have to be okay with that. And so it was nice seeing her, actualize that and kind of go, nope, I'm part of the group, but I'm going to accept that I have blown it several times. And so I can't push it, past parts. So that made, I think, her a lot more enjoyable for me.
Okay, so the Rickety Bridge asks, what was your favorite arc in the Wind and Truth book?
That's hard.
I think go ahead, Jordan.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, I think my favorite, I was looking up, there's a lot of really good ones, but the one that I enjoyed going back to over and over was Sigil, actually. I wasn't expecting it to be that, but just every time we went to Sigil, I was just like, okay, I like where Sigil is developing, and he had some rough stuff to go through.
Especially, which again, using a different character to foreshadow what's going to happen, breaking your oath as a way to save lives.
It was heart-wrenching, brilliant, and it made stuff make sense for the Sunlit Man.
Yeah,
I liked the response. At the end, it's like, she's there, she's okay, she's recovering, she doesn't want to talk to you. She understands, she forgives you, but she doesn't want to talk to you.
She's not.
And I was like, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, and it's like, and he can respect that and go, no, that's cool.
Yeah. And it hurts.
And from his perspective, though, he's like, at least she's alive.
Exactly.
Which is why he did it.
Yeah, to reject me like that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because you see, there is just there's a good connection between the two of them, but what he did literally broke her.
Yeah. But it kept her alive.
And even though, she understands why he did it, she forgives him. I can understand why talking to him, seeing him would be unbearable.
Mm-hmm.
One for me was just everything that happened in Aesir. Just because there's so many different character arcs in there. There's Gox, there's Adolin, there's Nura had a freaking
Nora,
yeah. Gox's was great.
I love.
What was the name of the girls? Not Zebra.
Zabra.
I liked her because there are so many stories where she would be the annoying Mary, annoying Mary Sue character. It's like, I can do anything, just like the big boys. Boop, boop, boop. And it's like, yeah, no, you're a tiny little girl, and I need people who can hold a line, and more. And it's like, but you can join May's archery force. What, really? And it's like, okay, yeah. She gets there, he finds her, and she's like, I know there's lower draw strength things, and it's like, yeah, it has to go through carapace. So
Yeah.
this
It's gotta be
this is
tougher.
this is the job. This, and just sort of this is war. This is the reality of it.
And
she learns like, okay, I'm gonna have to accept that there are limitations to literally who I am. So that I'm gonna have to get shard plate.
Her character is very, very well handled, I thought, because she is impetuous. She's frustrated. She gets angry about that kind of thing, and then she gets, it's explained to her, and she's like, I get it. She's willing to listen.
Yeah, but it's still done, and this is important to me.
Yes,
with that teenage just anger, where it's just like, fine, I guess you're right.
I mean, he takes the time to do his
really
normal
good character. No,
to do his really good, like how he teaches people, and like he's sitting there, she's like, well, why can't I do that, be in the shield wall thing? And he's like, no, okay, give me a shield, give me that. And he's like, okay, push me. It's like, do it, you gotta push, and she's like, you're just playing it easy. And he's like, okay, no, you don't want me to play easy. And then whoop. He's like, no, this is what you're having to deal. And he's like, and I'm not even a fused, I'm this.
Well, she's like, well, yeah, but you're a super experienced soldier. And it's like,
so he's like, okay, come over here.
First of all, you're not going to get to go up against, inexperienced soldiers. You're going to Warforged. But you know what? Hey, here's a inexperienced
a new recruit. Let's see how you do it.
Just a dude much bigger than you.
Yeah. And it's,
guess what? The Warforged are going to be much bigger than him.
The thing that I like, though, is that, like, he explains to her, she listens, but she still has that anger, and that her personality doesn't change. It's not just a matter of, oh, you're right, everything you say is right, and now I completely agree with you because you're amazing and wonderful and the best teacher. It's just like she keeps her character. Her character is consistent, but willing to learn.
Yeah.
It's a good character design.
And which is what makes it satisfying when she gets her armor.
Yes. You love it when she gets
and she's like, yes, let's do this.
Oh, well, the other thing I love about that is because this is actually a kind of a huge callback to Way of Kings, where what was Dalinar's entire plan that he was trying to pitch to, all the high princes was, look, we have all these shards. If we just combine together, what if we in one big grand force, like we could put together a force of shard bearers that the world has never seen, and then, we could just wipe through. And then when Adolin gets, it's like, okay, yeah, they're not very practiced, but when has there ever been 10 shard? Well, because that's at first he's like 9. Wait, no, there's 10. Or where did that? And Nodum is wearing other Spren his armor.
He's like, it doesn't seem to matter. It works. And it's like, okay.
They were cool with it. So
yeah. Oh man.
Well, and the other thing is that actually kind of, in a weird way, Ishar's plan to get soldiers out of the Spren.
Yeah.
Just not how he planned.
Yeah, not the way he thought about doing it, but there's a way.
Yeah.
No,
I just realized something. Oh, when you were talking about...
go ahead.
Oh, I was saying, I just realized something when you were talking about Dalinar a second ago. What was one of his final acts? He united them. He united odium and honor.
He did.
Yep. That's just sort of chilling when he's just like, unite them. That is not what I was expecting. Unite them.
For the record, though, what's been my big thing for?
You thought it was going to be war.
Yep. Now it's essentially war, but just because that's what I called it, because of War Light. But yeah.
we were thinking that it was going to be Dalinar picking them up because he was the High Prince of War.
Well, no, I said I said it was Taravangian.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, that was going to be a Pyrrhic victory where he was gonna now what I thought it was going to be I guess it kind of was. It wasn't how I imagined it. I thought it was going to be Dalinar was going to lose, and then like basically with his last dying gasp was going to do something to screw Odium over. Instead, he set it up where it's like, yeah, let's see if you aren't just about the power, because I don't think you're going to be able to resist this.
Yeah. Versus the original Rays would not have done it because he wanted to keep Odium separate.
Yes.
And nope.
He didn't want to be
Saravangian didn't think about
and
that.
now Retribution as a shard itself is just like, oh no.
Yeah.
You can never get too far ahead in a game of free for all and Smash Bros, man.
Yeah.
They will start ganging up on you.
I liked all of the arcs, but I also really did like a lot of the stuff that was happening in the spiritual realm, like in seeing how, like, just all of the backstory stuff that we were finally getting, and like Navani and Dallin are jumping through things and figuring out how to jump through the different visions, and then R'lain and Renarin and Shalon, and like the moment when Shalon saw like Renarin and R'lain holding hands, and she's like being giddy outside or whatever, and
It was way better. I loved it from Renard's perspective, where his friend's like, something's wrong with her. She's making noises. And
I was like, she's making Amy noises.
Yep, I'm like, she's fangirling over there. Yep, and she's trying really hard not to spoil the moment, but she's going.
I love Renard's perspective on his sister-in-law, though, where
he's like,
she has a huge voyeuristic streak that I am not comfortable with.
And he's like, oh, just don't. I can't do it forever. It's not okay.
It's like, you're not helping. Stop trying to help. You're not helping.
Just leave it alone.
Meanwhile, she's over here.
Yeah. She just give him a thumbs up once, and it's like, oh my goodness. Oh man! So just like all of that was.
But how they were moving through the spiritual realm, the fact that it's all tied to these memories and these anchors, and
it reminded me of. Have either of y'all played the game To the Moon?
Mm-mm.
Okay, never mind. It's basically just the concept of finding an anchor point to take you to another memory. Except in reverse.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Anyway, move on. The other thing. I typically, when people step into a weird version of the world, or like a Fey realm or something like that, in the Cytoverse, when they go into that sort of realm, it always makes me feel just a little trippy and uncomfortable. Like I genuinely just, whatever it is, I don't like it. Because it's just like, this is the world, but not. And so it's a little bit off and everything could change. It typically makes me just sort of uncomfortable. I think it might have to do with when I played Metroid Prime 2 and going into the other realm, it damages you slowly over time. And so there's just something that just feels off about like, I felt uncomfortable for a lot of the time when they were in the cognitive realm, because it's just like, okay, the rules are different, and it throws me off a little bit. It didn't bother me as much while they were in the spiritual realm, which I was expecting it to. But it made sense. It wasn't a matter of you're in a world that you're going to dissolve into. Like I was thinking going into the spiritual realm is like going into the cognitive realm on Cell. That was kind of the mental image I had of it. It didn't work that way, and it made a lot more sense, because I was thinking they're going to step into this world where they're just going to be vaporized by raw power.
Yeah, but thankfully not.
But instead it's because there's no location to anything. It's the fact that it's all these connections, and so it's the issue of any random thought could accidentally pull you in the wrong direction. We saw that where, like, Dalinar accidentally connected with someone just because he
goes in the middle of a conversation and he's like, poop. It's Malishi. I think that he does. He goes in the middle of the conflict and he's like, oh no, I didn't mean to step over here. Okay.
I didn't study my lines.
Trying to wing it.
It's like you get to school and you realize that there's a final exam in a class that you didn't realize you signed up at the beginning of the semester.
Yeah.
No, I was wondering how he was going to showcase the spiritual realm. Mostly when I found out we're going to spiritual realm, it's like, oh, I thought this was going to be like the Beyond, and we just never go here because it's too alien and foreign.
I did too.
It worked out okay. Also about Anna Mishram, were you guys surprised at how things worked with her by the end?
Very.
Because I mean, she starts out and she's mad, like she's gonna just go for the throat, go for blood.
I wasn't really surprised, just because I that kind of felt like to me the entire time the logical conclusion to the Renar and R'lain story. But I was more surprised. I thought she would get out earlier and there would be more consequences in the book about releasing her. And so the fact that they release her, and it's sort of, by the end, it's kind of an afterthought.
Yeah.
I mean, it does fix some things that were going to be bigger issues if she hadn't been released, but it's less.
It's a setup for the back half, it feels like.
Yeah. And I mean, she felt a little bit like a MacGuffin for a little bit, like gotta go find the MacGuffin, but then she did do things and she was influencing stuff. And so it wasn't quite that, which was good.
This book, it was interesting. It felt like Brandon was kind of leaning very hard. And I'm not saying this as a criticism, just something I noticed very hard on the theme of hurt people hurt people.
It's a theme with all of the Stormlight Archive. It feels like that he's
but if in this one in particular, it felt like I am going to each of the villains, I'm going to humanize them in some way.
So you see why they're so angry or why they're so just...
and when I say villains, I'm talking about antagonists for every single perspective. It's like this is what, like all of the, like Ishar was humanized, and all of the fused in different ways,
and Nail and stuff like that. Yeah.
Too. And Nail. Yeah. It was just like, oh, our antagonist, like he's not letting us have any just straight up, this is the bad guy antagonist.
Moash.
Except that Moash even is humanized in some ways. Now, he is going farther and farther. I was actually wondering, because I had an interesting conversation with somebody at Dragonsteel, at Dragonsteel Nexus, where we were talking about Moash, and they were talking about how they were a Moash Redempted Arc, like they were for it. And
proponent,
I was like, and I was just like, I could see it happening if. And it was like, because Moash ended the last book in a rough spot, and I was just like, if what Moash is going through, I could see this being a push for him to start regretting his decisions. And in this, he just leaned in harder.
He's like, no, I'm going to revel in the pain. It's great. And it's like, oh yeah, you just lost on any sliver of redemption I can see coming. Nope. It's gone. I don't.
And there's a part of me that worries that after this, Brandon's still going to try and give him a redemption. I'm just like, because again, he was sort of giving everyone redemptions in this, and Moash is further. I'm just like, okay, Brandon, you might have pushed him too far for anyone to be okay.
I feel like he's not going to do that, mostly because every time he's been asked a question about, do you have something good to say about Moash or blah, 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 and he's just been like, and hasn't said anything. And so I mean, it's possible that he's going to do a switcheroo on us, but at the same time, I don't think that he would do it now.
I don't think that he would, but there's just a sliver of worry in me that he's going to think, okay, I'm going to pull off the ultimate redemption story here.
And
I think the bigger thing with Moash is more just, we're not supposed to like feel sorry for him. We're supposed to he's not a sympathetic villain. He's an understandable villain.
Yes.
You see, it's very Thanos, where you're like, you don't sit there and be like, oh yeah, I see what Thanos's point is because he's an idiot. But you understand what his goal is. You understand how, from his perspective, why he's doing what he's doing.
And even with Thanos, you can see why he thinks it, but he's still dumb. He should have just gotten the things and then made more resources. But anyway.
And in book 4, Moash is absolutely just a garbage individual. Book 4 also had the excuse of Moash is now very, very under Odium's power. Like he did give his pain to Odium, so now Odium has a lot of control and influence over him.
Yeah.
And then we had that burst after, in Urithiru, where suddenly he was not in Odium's power. And I was just like, okay, at this point, Brandon could put something in where he's just like, okay, I realize everything that's going on, because it's sort of like Dalinar kind of getting the rush of all his memories back, and it hits him.
Yeah.
It's it's just like, okay, I'm not there yet, but Brandon might be able to lead me there. I don't think he will, but he might be able to. And I've always honestly been on the just Storm Moash wagon. but I was willing to say, okay, if something changes in this book, I might understand Brandon going for it. At this point, it's going to be hard to convince me if he does go that way, and I don't think he will.
I don't see it just anyway, but yeah.
So, obviously we've been going for 2 hours.
Oh boy.
I want to propose.
Amy's already married, and I'm not interested.
Okay. Yeah, well, you did explain you're not an attractive female. But I want to propose a final question. I just want to know this. So this is the Stormlight Archive. Is the back half the Warlight Archive?
I was wondering because we got the postlude to the Stormlight Archive, which it is the post, because we had the prelude, which was from Calic's perspective, and then we had the postlude, which is from Calic's perspective. So we have bookends for the Stormlight Archive. You could be right that we'll have like the Warlight Archive or some other kind of archive.
I could see it being Void Light doesn't quite feel right for it either, but at the same time, I don't think they're going to be able to fully get rid of Void Light or fix quote unquote things until like book 10. So
that's why I think Warlight Archive has a good ring to it.
Warlight might, because I mean, Warlight was introduced in book 4, not in book 5. So it's like not even just here's a sudden thing. Hey, this is what everything, like he built to it.
Yeah. So I could see that. So
at the same time, maybe the branding of Stormlight's just too strong, and
it is a pretty strong.
He proposes it, and Tor just says, "Brandon, remember when you wanted to name your second book the Book of Endless Pages?" And your agent said, "Don't do that."
Unfortunately, though, not unfortunately, but worrisomely, Brandon has recognized that he is now big enough to say no.
He did say it Dragonsteel. It was the part of he talked about how his career started off where he didn't have power to change anything, and then he didn't have power because the brand's too strong, so we don't want to change anything. And now he's big enough where he can change things.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah. Oh man. There's so much that happens.
There's so much.
We're going to be breaking down this book for months.
Oh man.
But no, like the last big thought I had was there were so many interlude things where I was like, yes, you get them, and then oh no, it's an Odium chapter, and oh no, things are worse. Like it kept emotional whiplash all the time. There were sometimes I had to put the book down and be like, I need to read frantically.
So much, so much angst. Try, fail, succeed, but.
Oh yeah, that's a good way to put it, because it was so frustrating.
I mean, that's the ending of the book.
Mm-hmm.
The ending of the book is try, fail, succeed, but.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just so much.
Okay, so we're halfway through the story. Like this really is, like, I mean, it's not a 3-act story, but this feels like the end of The Empire Strikes Back, where just everything is bad. You know,
with little slivers of hope.
You know, because with the 3-act structure, it's, you know, chase him up a tree, throw rocks at him, and then
he gets away or whatever.
Then they can get down or whatever.
It's just, oh man. And I mean, Shalon's pregnant. That's the other, like, she totally is. Which I kept figuring was going to happen.
Which made the intimacy scene earlier. I'm like, so that's why we had that scene.
Well, the other thing is Shalon's pregnant, but while pregnant, she spent, you know, almost 10 days in the cognitive or in the spiritual realm. Something's up with this kid. Something's going to happen with.
And she's also Chanarach's daughter. That's the other thing.
She's Channer, and she's in the.
That was the other thing I had to mention this time.
In the spiritual realm,
was she's now in the cognitive realm. In the spiritual realm, when we get to see her marriage. Mm-hmm. I immediately thought of you, Amy, because you had complained that you hadn't. And then as soon as we're in the spiritual realm and we're using it to see that she was at her wedding, I'm like, that's why we didn't see the marriage.
Okay, what I want to know is, because at Dragonsteel Nexus, they had the World Hoppers Ball, which was Adolin and Shalon's wedding.
Yes.
Was there secretly an actor
Yes.
with red hair
Yes.
somewhere in the...
Yes.
you know this?
I have it confirmed from people, from sources, that yes, that was planned. There was a comment from Wit, the actor Wit, there who chases out a red-haired lady saying, "You need to go back to Braze."
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of spoilerific.
So yeah, so that was a thing, and so I mean, I feel I got so much FOMO seeing all the stuff from the World Hoppers Ball because I didn't go, and I'm like,
that is kind of your scene. But
I know, but then I also would have. I mean, I would have had to find somebody to. I don't know. It was a whole weird thing because Josh wouldn't have been there, and it would have felt weird anyway. But anyway, it's a whole thing. But
I had the same thing,
and I would have had to bum around with friends and figure out which one they were going to. Anyway, but it was also expensive, so that's part of the big chunk of why I didn't do it. So hopefully next year I will save up for it and see whatever kind of ball they're doing that time. But yes, that was a canon scene at the ball.
I knew the scene was canon. I just didn't know if they had Chanarach there.
I haven't seen any pictures of her, but I have heard from several people that there was an actress who was chased out, quote unquote.
I am very pleased that I called Chanarach so.
I was like, oh, yep. And what was it? Somebody asked me if I thought that she was, Chanarach was the mom or whatever, and I was like, I don't like it, but yes. I'm like, I'm kind of convinced now that. And then I read the book and I was like, yep, knew that. Called, yeah.
Well, and I liked the explanation that, like, as we see the actual scene where Chanarach is being told by Nail, and it's like,
you got to kill her, yeah.
Well, but it's like, we warned you this might happen. Look at your sons. Like, this one's a drunk. This one, this isn't normal. Like, this, influence is doing something to them.
And which of the kids is not her full sibling? That's the other thing that throws me.
I'm guessing Helleron.
That would be the
because he's the less broken one, I guess.
So is Helleron her father's child then, and not Chanarach's?
Yes, I think that's the case. That he's the bastard child, basically, of.
Which would also kind of explain the tense relationship between Helleron and her father.
Yeah. Whatever. Lynn?
Is it Lynn?
I think it's Lynn. Lynn Devar. Yeah.
Lynn Devar. Because there's two Lynns.
So, yeah. Lynn and Liren. That makes it hard. There's two.
No, but there's Lynn, Liren, and then Lynn.
And Lift.
Oh, my goodness. L.Y. Oh, goodness. More names. We need more names.
And
there's probably a Lila somewhere. Who knows? Yeah. Lots of things. Anyway, so yeah, that was another thing that threw me. I was like, okay, so all of the siblings are supposedly likely to end up with Spren. So what Spren are they going to end up with if they do? Because that was what I got out of the conversation.
I'm fairly certain that Balada is going to be a Dustbringer. Like he just screams Dustbringer.
We didn't really see any Dustbringers, which I was totally thinking we would this book.
The only Dustbringer we saw was Chanarach.
Well, in
she wasn't part of the order, but that's power.
The thing that's interesting there is because we now know part of because I believe it might have been Nail who said something about it. I can't remember who, but they talked about how the Dustbringers, like they refer to them as like Taravangian's pets, and it's like they're not even real Dustbringers. Like, and then you remember all they bonded were just angry Ash Spren. So. Mm-hmm. These aren't people who are really progressing across the self-mastery.
Right.
They're just...
they're angry.
Well, just like there's also, other Skybreakers.
Yeah.
Who were not part of Nail's broken group. They broke off from...
Yeah, which we didn't see those, but we know of them.
So luckily there's 5 more books.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if Nail, or if Zeth goes through the new 5-0s.
Oh, I know.
Without skipping one, by the way.
And oh my goodness. And then there's still so much and not enough time. So much.
The other thing that I wanted to mention about Chanarach was interesting, just because it was another example of the curses of the heralds. each of them sort of becoming the opposite of what they were before, because she was the bruiser of the group, apparently.
She was the bodyguard, yeah.
She was the bodyguard in the, she has the Ashbringer surges, or Dustbringer surges.
Yeah.
Ashbringer something else entirely. but she, and like, she's the one wearing like the furs and just like, she's sort of got the Viking
feel to her. I was like, oh man,
and
that's
then,
not what I would have thought.
Then we see her and she's screaming, "I'm a homemaker." Shalon
like,
remembered her as the peak of
femininity and stuff, yeah.
But it's the way the herald
just flips, yeah. And I mean, she was like framing it as like, I want to be this compared to everything else, and
she might,
which, yeah, I could see that.
I mean, if you've had a life of war and death,
I
mean, you just look at
home with, kids.
What is it? The Hunger Games. Like, that's how that, spoiler, that's how that book ends, is Katniss leaves all the war and everything else, and she picks the peaceful love interest, not the war like one.
Again, we're not a spoiler-free podcast for anything.
That's been out long enough that you should know by now. Anyway.
Fair enough.
So
yeah, there's even a movie of that one. So
yeah, there's several movies. There's the 3 movies, yeah. So anyway,
but 4 movies.
And Rosebud was the name of the sled.
5 movies technically, because there's the new one. But
I still haven't seen the new one. Anyway,
because Mockingjay was split into 2 movies.
Oh, I forgot about that. Okay.
But it's just because you have the heralds who have been living for thousands of years, being pushed into these changes, like these these mental, like this curse, this essentially, you lift the curse. That doesn't mean that the life that they lived with that curse goes away.
There's still those mental
they have these experiences, so who knows what they're going to want now that that's
the darkness
broken.
Yeah, the darkness is gone. Yeah,
like, because again, Kaladin's going to be their therapist. He's going to help them deal with it. That doesn't make it go away. Going to therapy does not delete the trauma.
I mean, it gives
just
you
makes it so you're able to deal with it.
Gives you the tools to help deal with it. Yeah,
exactly. It lightens the burden. It doesn't make it as though the burden was never there.
Yeah.
So it'll be very interesting to see who these heralds come. And Taln didn't go through the same thing they did. He went through his own kind of trauma and has forgiven them, which just, I almost wept when I read that line, just that's what he said. That was the only.
I mean, he also doesn't want to talk to him right that second because he's just decompressing over there, which I'm like, that's fair. That is, you had a long time of lots of stress. You go decompress.
But like in Oathbringer, we saw his response when Shalash told him what had happened, and he's just like,
"That's so great."
He's like, "That's wonderful. That's amazing."
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Talon is awesome. So anyway,
we've been going too long.
Yep, we should probably.
Yeah, because I really need to go to bed.
Sleep is for the weak.
No, it's for the people who have jobs that start at 7 a.m.
Okay, fine. We do love hearing from our listeners, so please keep sending in questions. You can ask us about the Cosmere. You can drop us your ideas for topics that you'd like us to discuss during the show. And while you're at it, we would absolutely love to hear your feedback about how you think we're doing, as well as any interesting theories you might have about what's going on in the Cosmere. And there's a lot going on in the Cosmere. You can send all questions and suggestions in a brief, concise email to cosmerestudies@gmail.com, and hopefully we could read that as part of the show. You can also reach us at the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, P.O. Box 970063, Orem, Utah 84097. We do have our own personal projects that we're working on outside the show. So, Amy, why don't you lead us off? Where can we find you?
My Facebook is Coincidence Cosplay and Props. My Twitter is @CoincidenceCosp because my name is too long. My Instagram is @coincidence_cosplay. My TikTok is @coincidencecosplay, and my website is www.coincidencecosplay.com. I am no idea what I'm actually working on because it's Christmas and I need to.
Recovering from Dragonsteel
Nexus. I'm recovering from Nexus and from reading this giant book, and I have children that are like, "Mom, we need to do this and this and this." And I finally have to say, "Yes, I can do it now." But I think over the next couple weeks, I'm going to try to actually put up some posts and just not be bothered by my backlog of months and months of stuff, and just actually start posting random things. So it's going to be a mishmash of whatever I have. So TikTok may be kind of weird because in theory it will be going away in January. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah. Who knows what's up? Jordan, how about you?
I've been literally recovering from the Dragonsteel Nexus, and I don't know if I'll be streaming tomorrow, even though I normally would be. If you're watching it live, if you're not watching it live, then yesterday it doesn't matter. We'll see how my voice is feeling, but I've been just doing random gaming streams, and so a lot of Balatro recently. So if you're into that, if you're into poker advanced, get in here at twitch.tv/splicestream.
Cool. And as for me, I'll promote another podcast that I've done with Jordan and a bunch of other friends called I Think We Overleveled. Essentially, Jordan has gathered a bunch of his buddies. It's a bunch of basically middle-aged gamers talking about the good old days. Our most recent episode, we talked about rhythm games, which is a really fun conversation because, wow, that was a big part of my college time. So, anyway, for those of you who want to support the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, but you can't become patrons, we'd love it if you would just let your friends know about the show. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and like and subscribe over on youtube.com/Cosmere Studies. And if you want to toss us a good review wherever you listen to us, we'd appreciate that too. I can't remember if I named the podcast that I was talking about with Jordan. It's called I Think We Overleveled, and it's on Jordan's YouTube channel, splicestream.com/ Splice or no, youtube.com/splicestream. I'm doing great.
You are.
Final thoughts.
We're going to be breaking down this book for decades.
The Adolin Power Rangers are awesome.
The Asprengers.
The Asprengers, yeah.
Man, I just wow. Oh, yeah. Okay. One other announcement, which I should have made at the top of the hour, but I forgot to, or at the top of the show. I am going to be traveling on December 30th. So we're actually going to be recording the day before that on December 29th, which is a Sunday night. So just make sure to check us out then. Anyway, in addition to the live episodes of the show that stream on youtube.com/Cosmere Studies every 2 weeks, on Monday nights at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, listeners can find our videos on YouTube or audio versions of the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and just about any other service that carries podcasts by searching for Cosmere Studies. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok and Facebook under the profile at Cosmere Studies. Our next episode is going to be our last one of the year, and we are going to be covering the state of the Sanderson because Brandon usually drops a lot of big news during that time, and we want to pay attention and talk about it and just address it all because who knows what's coming. But anyway, so you will definitely want to be there, so make sure to join us live in chat on Sunday, December 29th, 2024, at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern at www.youtube.com/Cosmere Studies. Until then, on behalf of Amy, Jordan, and myself, thanks for listening, and remember,
there's always another secret.